We know what it's like. We were children. We were sexually abused. Now we're learning to SOAR. You can too.
SOAR stands for Survivors of Abuse Recovering.
Stats Canada says that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. A lot of people say it's more like 1 in 3 or 1 in 2, 1 in 5 for boys.
My story as a survivor is a bit of an interesting journey because for many years I had no idea I was a survivor. I just knew I had some challenges.
So I was sexually abused when I was 16 and 17, and I didn't tell anybody about it, and really worked on it on my own for a number of years.
I was raised in a small town, and in those days, you never heard of anything about sexual abuse of children.
It's very difficult to recover memory from that early an age. This was less than 2 years old, and our memories at that age are highly unstructured and unorganized. But I put together that there had been multiple cases of sexual and physical abuse involving both men and women.
When I got to the end of university, I really felt like it had been a burden that I didn't want to take with me any further, and I didn't feel like I would ever be able to share my story with anybody, so I just really worked hard at pushing it away and not thinking about it.
My perpetrator was a family member, so I had to deal with that feeling of betrayal.
I thought my home life had been normal, actually it had been very toxic. I had a friend who had gone for counseling, and anyway, she pointed me in the direction of SOAR. And I said, well, what is SOAR? And she said, well, it's a place you can go, you can talk about childhood sexual abuse. And I said, well, what is that? She says, well, you go and you'll see. So I did, and that was the opening of my recovery and my journey.
You're so afraid that no one is going to believe you, so you say nothing. And you live with these feelings of anguish and fear and hurt and betrayal all your life, basically. You have no model, really, of what a male and a female relationship should look like.
I think that as a man going through this, I would say to other men that there are some specific challenges that we go through as men that are different, and there are some things which are absolutely the same.
I had my loss of innocence, the loss of just being the child.
The story of being a survivor was more important to me than the story of being a victim. I discovered that there was an organization that provided peer counseling for survivors, and so my first encounter with SOAR was as a peer client, having sessions with someone who would listen and who would help me sort out some of the impacts that this had had on my life.
I was trying to get support through medical professionals and mental health services, but everybody I went to really didn't know what to do with me. Even though I was explaining to them that I had been sexually abused and I was having a difficult time now, people just didn't understand what I was dealing with and didn't understand how they could be helpful to me.
You need to be trained in a certain way to ask the right questions, to draw out the survivor to talk about the not so much the sexual abuse itself, but how they're feeling, what they're doing.
It's isolating. It's not something that people are comfortable talking about. It doesn't come up naturally in conversations, and the people that I went to for help, a lot of them were overwhelmed, and so I think there was a combination of them distancing themselves from me and also me distancing myself from them.
I guess the challenges that a survivor faces every day are, triggers for one thing. You have no idea, just walking down the street, you can see someone walking towards you. They have a certain gait, or they have a certain look about them, or they're wearing a certain kind of clothes or a coat. and your heart starts pounding because you think it's your perpetrator or you think it's somebody that is going to harm you.
Some days I get up in the morning and I get breakfast and I'm okay. And then another day I'll get down and I don't quite understand why I'm feeling down.
I think that as a survivor, the key challenges are handling triggers. The simple things can evoke the memories of having been abused, even if we're not even aware of them at the time.
It was very depressing and it was very hard, and it was difficult to look for hope, but I think that's eventually sort of how I would summarize the whole experience, was looking for hope and trying to find some reason to keep going.
I think it's really important in our recovery to feel positive and to feel like we're doing something that's important and to feel like we're working on our own issues.
I think if the healing journey is only looking at the bad things that happened, I think we're just re-traumatizing ourselves. So I think that looking at where we have come from and looking at the distance that we've traveled and looking at imagining the future that we want and moving towards it, I think is a really crucial part of the healing.
I had no control over what happened to me, but I can look at it and see what I've learned and look at the positives in it.
Right from the beginning, the first phone call that I had with SOAR, it really changed everything for me, because when I was going to doctors and medical professionals and even some psychologists and therapists, overwhelmingly I found that they just didn't understand what I was experiencing.
SOAR is more than peer counseling, it's also a community. So that as we either do the peer counseling courses or we meet once a month for the peer counseling support or education, or we have informal gatherings together, or just knowing that there's somebody that you can call if you're having a hard time. That's that ongoing connection, that ongoing sense of community.
For me, SOAR has been a lifeline. It has been the way that I came out of the darkness, really.
SOAR, my dear, has been my family. I've had to divorce my immediate family and I've adopted SOAR as my family. And I was never afraid to call someone from SOAR and say, look, I'm feeling depressed today and I can't do this or whatever. It's, then they talk to you and help you figure out why you're depressed. They're not there to fix you. They're there to just support you.
SOAR gave me my first opportunity to speak about what I had experienced with a group of people who had similar experiences.
For me, my focus is like, tomorrow is always another day. So regardless of what occurs that day, tomorrow is another day. And I must say, I do have a strong faith that helps me along, and I love life.
SOAR has changed my life. There is no doubt about that. It has given me a whole new perspective on what I can expect from myself and what is logical to expect from other people.